Hey everybody, I'm Pastor Chris Mays from New Life Fellowship, and I just want to say welcome to this session of We Are New Life. 2023 is New Life Fellowship's 50th anniversary as a church, and I've been using this opportunity to sit down for some conversations with people who have been at the church for varying lengths of time, just to hear some stories of God's faithfulness and His goodness. And for this session, I'm joined by John and Diana Clark, a key couple here at the church, and we're going to hear some of your story and how long you've been around. But maybe just to start there, tell everybody, how long have you been attending New Life, and what were the circumstances of your arriving here?
Well, we actually were both born in the church, so I guess the circumstances were birth. I've been here, I've been 43 years. And
mine's a little less than that.
which you point out often.
Yes. Actually, I think your dad married my mom and dad.
Okay,
and
so
I was a year old when they got married.
Wow. So my dad did your parents' wedding.
Yeah.
And I got to do your wedding.
Yep.
Yes.
That's pretty cool how things come full circle in generations.
He was at my, I think Pastor Barrett did my parents.
Okay, but Dad was there.
Dad was there. Yeah, he was there.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because he was a pastor. He was already a pastor still at that point.
Okay. So. Cool. So that's cool that you even know a little bit about the circumstances of what was happening in your family when you were born and what was going on at the church. Yeah. Did your parents ever talk about what was going on at that time period of life in the church when you guys were born?
Oh yeah. I've got all kinds of stories of Pastor Chris and Cousin Stephen running around as kids, and they told me a lot when you guys.
I'll get to those stories. Yeah.
My parents didn't really talk about what was going on at New Life, but there was a lot going on in their lives.
Okay.
That brought them there. Not a lot of good stuff was happening, and your dad and your mom took them under their wings.
Yeah.
And just was good people to them, and pastors and friends and teachers and all of the above. So
God was really working in your family at the time when He brought them to New Life and got them set here. Oh, that's awesome. Yep. What are some of your first memories of New Life as you're growing up in the church, as you were born here? I know sometimes it's hard to remember back that far or know what was going on, but what are the first things that you remember, or maybe even some of the first people that you really remember that stick out in your mind?
I was thinking about this question, and one of the earliest memories I can remember is in Mrs. Mack's class, standing doing the attendance. How it was on the wall, and you got to walk up. We all stood in line. You got to walk up, and you got to put your sticker on your attendance chart. And for some reason, that was always a cool thing to do, because then you got to see how many times did you come to church, and you got to count your stickers and things like that.
And at that time, Mrs. Mack was teaching 4 and 5 year olds.
Yeah.
Okay.
The 4 and 5s class, and I just remember kids' church and the KIDS, Kids in Divine Service, and all the teachers in there and stuff. So that's some of my earliest memories.
How about you, John?
Well, I mean, we were at the Moon Church at that point. Is my earliest memories. So I can remember, Sunday school classes, and I can remember Pastor Barrett's office and everybody get a piece of candy. I could remember being there for worship practices and stuff because Mom was on the worship team. I can remember being in Carnegie, because I still had a lot of family. All my uncles and aunts and cousins and my grandparents all went to Carnegie at the time. And so I can remember the fold-down chairs of the sanctuary and the banners, and I can remember the classrooms and the baptismal down in the basement, and all. I can remember a lot of those things, those little details.
That's awesome.
Of the church.
Did both of you guys get baptized in the baptismal in the basement at Carnegie, or were you out at Moon?
No, I was at Moon, so I got baptized in Pastor Jim's pool.
Okay.
That was our baptismal.
I guess not everybody knows that for a season we had planted a church in Moon Township and sent some families out there, but through various circumstances, we sold that building and you guys ended up back here. Where did you get baptized at?
West End.
West End in
Yeah,
the tub?
most of my memories, actually all of my memories were at West End.
Okay.
So that's where I grew up, and I know that building like he's talking about the Moon building. I know the West End building like the back of my hand. So.
Well, so thinking about knowing the building like the back of your hand, what was your go-to hiding spot for hide and seek in the church?
Which building?
Oh, no.
Because I had Moon, I got West End.
Give me Moon and West End, and then you give me West End.
For West End, my go-to was behind the door of the kitchen. The kitchen door swung out, and everybody, because we'd always play hide and go seek, whoever was it would hide in the kitchen. You'd open the door, and I would get blocked in. So you'd never know I was there. At Moon, it was in the nursery, hiding in the crib wall that they had with the stackable cribs. We'd hide underneath one of the mattresses, and that was one of our go-tos.
I don't know if I want to share this. But, so when we played hide and go seek, you shut all the lights out, and then you just run, and you basically had like the whole building at your disposal. But there is storage space up above the resource room in the fellowship hall that there was a few of us that have climbed up into that.
I've heard of getting out. Yeah, you had to get rescued. Not just found, you had to get rescued. I've heard of that hiding space at West End and on top of the restrooms by the nursery.
Yes,
was
that was another
place.
big one. But the thing was, those were the first two places that everybody looked because everybody wanted to hide there.
Yep. Well, that's thinking of some of your earliest memories and those people that you thought about, maybe moving forward in church history. Who are some of the people that, as you were growing up, made an impact on your life, or that you can remember, wow, that I really looked up to them, or I learned some lessons from them, and how did it impact you?
I mean, for me, I had, like I said, I had all my family was there, my extended family. So I learned from all, I was a nephew or, a son, grandchild, whatever, so I had all them. I can remember at the Moon Church, Val Huber was one of the elders there, and I can remember him teaching some of the Sunday school classes, and he was actually the one that got baptized with the Holy Spirit. I can remember Mitch and Suzanne Nace doing the kids in Carnegie. I can remember, obviously, I had Bill Malenka and Vic Davidson, my Sunday school teachers after Moon. When we were in West End, they were the Sunday school teachers, and Steve Jones was the youth group teacher. So I remember them very real. They're probably the most memorable.
Yeah. And a lot of those people that you just mentioned are still around in the church with us. So it's pretty amazing to have that connection of the generations. It is also a reminder sometimes when people start telling stories like this, I think, I really need to let that person know that they meant so much to me, and take advantage of them still being here. Di, how about you? Who are some people you remember?
Honestly, all of the teachers that I had growing up in the church were all very memorable. I remember Mr. Gelati. He was always a fun teacher. And Mr. Eccles, as I got through the teens and stuff like that, he was a great teacher. And your mom, obviously, Aunt Deb or Debbie Simaraj, she was another great teacher I really enjoyed. Your mom and dad, they were great youth group leaders. They took us camping and all of that. So that was fun, some fun times.
And nobody broke any bones when you went camping.
No, we were responsible when we went camping.
All the teachers, I would say, were very memorable. There's not one that I can't remember.
Yeah.
So.
I know sometimes the people in our lives in the church and the teachers we've had, they're memorable even if you can't necessarily pinpoint, I remember exactly what they taught me, or I remember this lesson. But even with that, can you think of one or two nuggets that you've learned over the years because you were at New Life that have helped you as a person or helped you in your walk with God? Something that's stuck out, I learned that because I was a part of a church family.
I can remember Pastor Jim as he was really an evangelist.
Mm-hmm.
And I can remember a lot of the outreaches we would do. I remember dressing up as clowns and going down to the Hillcrest, down to the community next to the Moon Church, and just being there for the kids and just going door to door and talking to people. And then we'd go to a nursing home and go do it to the people there, and just being bold in my faith and being it was real easy for me at a young age to share my faith.
Okay.
So that was one big one. I could come up with a couple others too. I've got a lot of memories here that just just different little things, like you were saying, just little nuggets that you could get.
Yeah.
I always thought growing up, I watched like the adults in my life, and I thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. That was always my thought. And it came down to like the littlest things, like raising my hand in church. That was always intimidating growing up, like for me at least. Like, oh, I'm just gonna raise my hand. No, I'm not. It's like one of those things where it was like, I don't know, it was just intimidating to raise my hands in church. But I always thought, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And then just speaking in tongues was also something that, well, if they can do it, then I can do it.
Yeah.
So just watching all the adults, not just the teachers, but all the adults in the church, just like doing what they do, it really stirred me and prompted me that, well, if they can do it, I can do it as well.
So it sounds like without there being a specific sermon or a class on how to live your faith, like that was a lesson you really took away, though, is it's okay for me to be a person of faith in public, in front of other people, and be bold about it. And it's not just because I know there's so many people, not to disparage anybody or talk differently about somebody that feels this way, but there's so many people that somehow they've met with Jesus, they want to be a Christian, but they talk about it in terms of, well, faith is a private matter, like they don't ever share it with anybody. But you guys were around a whole church full of people that you're like, this is something to be lived in public.
Absolutely.
Well, that's a great lesson to learn.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your kids are picking that up too, or are you passing that on to the next generation even?
I would hope so.
Yeah, I'd like to hope so.
Yes, I would hope so. Yeah.
I mean, I think so. I think the kids are picking up some of that. I mean, Gina was the one that told us kindergarten there's no such thing as Santa. So, I think he's picking up something.
Oh, I could see him learn that from his dad, right?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Okay. Well, over all the years that you've been here, you've seen a bunch of stuff. Then you've seen God move and different moves of God, different miracles, things happening. Is there one testimony or two that stand out in your mind that you're just like, wow, that made me stop and think God's real and He's doing that?
Well, I mean, I was part of the church through that whole laughing revival, and seeing that, and just like, yeah, okay, you always hear, they're just faking it, but having experience going, there's no way you're faking that, but like just miracles in general. I've seen somebody's leg get stretched out, praying. I've actually prayed for somebody, had them in church. It was really neat to see. Things like that I've picked up on. Really doing the missions trip with John Robles to Mexico one summer. Going through that and seeing some of the things that have happened there, just the healings and just the people getting touched by God and things like that. It's really neat to think back of how God's moved and things that have happened.
Yeah, and I think it's good to rehearse those because it stirs our faith to see it again and to say, like, that's part of why we share testimonies, because it creates that atmosphere for God to do it again and make faith happen in other people. How about you, Di?
Well, I was thinking some of the stuff that God has done for us personally. Like, I feel like there's two that came to my mind. Well, the fact that we got married in the church. Like,
that was a miracle.
I just feel like that's something, like, He brought us together.
Yes.
And it was pretty cool. And we got a car. Somebody gave us a car.
Yeah.
That was in this church that we needed a car, and they found out we needed a car, and they said, here, we want you to have this, no strings attached.
Yeah.
So I think that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. And you were obviously praying and asking God, like,
yeah.
help
We
us.
were.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
It's,
Absolutely.
you know, sometimes we think he doesn't care about the little stuff, or we like, I've met people that they're like, I don't want to bother him. He's too busy with other people, but he cares. He cares about all that stuff, even getting our family from point A to point B in a reliable vehicle.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's cool. I know that over the course of 40 some years, however long you've both been around, I know that over the course of the years, not every church is perfect. There's opportunities to get upset at people or rub people the wrong way. But what is it about New Life? What keeps you coming back? What made you decide this is the place for us, and I'm willing to work through stuff. I'm willing to be vulnerable. I'm willing to put up with other people who aren't perfect. What is it about the church that keeps you planted and keeps you coming back?
The big one for me is it's family. I mean, this is just where this is where we've grown up. We've grown up with everybody here. We're family. We actually had a point in our lives where we questioned whether this was really supposed to, are we supposed to stay here or whatever? We're like, yeah, and God told us, no, I want you to go. We're like, what do you mean, God? Like, what do you mean you want us to go? And I always likened it to Abraham going to sacrifice Isaac. God said, I want you to go sacrifice him. Abraham's like, this isn't right, but I'm going to trust you, God. I don't know what the next step is. And that's even what we told people when we're like, God telling us to leave. We don't know where we're going to go. We don't know what we're going to do. We're going to go. And the amazing thing about it is we were gone for exactly 40 days. And
just like a Bible story.
And it was my 40th birthday. So it was really, it was just how God, the steps, the places, the churches we visited while we were away, and just the people we connected with. And it was just amazing how
somehow
God.
We're connected to New Life as well.
Yeah, it was all the connections back to New Life. Everything kept pointing back to New Life. So it was really neat.
It was short-lived.
Right. And at the end of that, you obviously heard God saying something else about
it's time to come back.
Yeah.
Welcome home. And it was just, it really was. It was just like we just went away on vacation or something,
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Well, I think for me is that this is a home. So instead of seeing the word church, I see a home. So it, like you said, it's family. It's a home. It's a place where I feel comfortable. It's a place where, at the same time, it's a place where I get challenged and I can grow.
Yeah.
But I can do it here because this is family.
Everybody throws out that iron sharpens iron verse, but then when it actually starts to happen in practical ways, a lot of people are like, "Oh, I didn't sign up for this." Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, that's good. It's a place to be challenged, but always be loved. So that's a good way to look at it.
Yep.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that and being vulnerable about it. I think it's okay to tell that story to people because I think people sometimes are afraid to let others know, like, hey, I'm wrestling with my faith or with my commitment or anything along those lines. They just think, oh, nobody else ever has those issues. But we all do from time to time.
That was one of the funny things about it is we kept in contact with you and Pam. We just, hey, let's just, hey, here's what we're doing. Here's what's going on this week. Here's what's going on. Here's what we're going to do next. Like, we never really cut ties or anything like that.
Yeah. And there's always an open door. I think that's one of the things about New Life is I hope and like to think that we're a church that you can always come home. Like no matter who's gone where for how long, like there's a place to come back to that people love you.
Yep.
So as I've been doing these interviews, I've asked people to share if they have a funny Pastor Dudley or a Pastor Chris story, whichever one you would like to go with. Does something come to mind that you think would be a good story to share?
You mean other than I'm a hog for you, Jesus?
You would be surprised how many people that is their go-to memory.
Wow. I mean, your dad's played it more than once. And it was something that I always thought was hilarious, but it really was. I mean, that was your dad.
Yeah.
He was a hog for Jesus. He really just enjoyed it.
And for those who are watching and may not know, Dad played a song for worship one time where he sang, "I'm a hog for you, Jesus. I can't get enough of your love."
Yeah. But I mean, I've heard stories of you and my cousin Steven running around on stage, hiding back behind things. And so I've got those. I've got, I actually have one of your old stuffed animals from when you were a kid. Because as you got older, your mom would just hand them out to us as kids.
Hand-me-downs.
I got one too.
And I have it, and not only do I still have it, but it's on Gino's bed now. So Gino
Wow.
has it.
Wow.
So it's been passed down.
Talk about generations being connected.
Yep.
So those are some of the nice ones. Yeah. I mean, when you're here this long, you're bound to have, that's part of being a family too.
Yeah.
You're going to know other people's stories.
Yep.
So.
How about you, Di? Do you have a dad story or?
No, I don't actually, but what I enjoy, since we're talking about you, this is about you or your dad. I really just enjoy being around you, like sitting on Wednesday night or Wednesday mornings and everything and being around the table. You make things funny. So I just enjoy that. I like going to your house. I like being, so that's, you have a good sense of humor, I think so.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. All the people in my family that give me grief about dad jokes on Sunday mornings.
That will be played over and over again.
I'm going to cut that snippet out and play it for them. So just as we're getting ready to wind down and wrap it up, if having been here and been so faithful and seeing God move over the years, what advice would you give to somebody that's going to be at New Life for the next several decades? We're looking back at 50 or however long you've been here. What advice would you say to somebody that is here right now and you're going to be here for 10, 20, 30 years? What would you tell them?
I would tell them that the people of New Life really do love you, and they really do care for you, and they really do want what's best for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because I feel like sometimes just like advice can be given that could be taken the wrong way or something like that. But it really is always in love. I feel, that's my opinion, that the people here truly do love you and care about you, and they want to see you grow and they want to see you challenged. So just listen.
Yeah, that's good, because it's easy to say that, hard to do sometimes. Mm-hmm. I had a pastor friend just today actually told me that he's been trying to work on believing that everything people say to him has his best at heart. Mm-hmm. And he's like, that's been really challenging to hear it from people and to think, okay, let me put my emotions in check and really listen for what's being said, but filter it through that person cares about me. That's why they're saying that.
Yep.
Okay. How about you, Jonathan? What advice would you give to somebody?
Get plugged in and don't give up. New Life is a family, and just like every other family out there, there's some rough patches. There's always the one black sheep of the family or whatever that's going to rub you the wrong way, but they love you. Your family always loves you, and the family here always loves you. Get plugged in, build those relationships, and this will be home for you as well.
Yeah, the more you can spend your time and energy doing something to contribute, the less time you see those things to complain about. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, last call. Is there anything else that's floating around your head that maybe before this interview you're like, oh, I want to remember to say that, and maybe we didn't say it yet? Last call for anything else that you want to leave people with.
Yeah, I think it goes along the lines of like, what's one piece of advice? So I have another piece of advice, is that you don't have to go overseas to go on a missions trip. And I think that's one thing that I've learned also from the people in the church, that if you want to help people, if you want to help the community, get involved in a church. Mm-hmm. Because every Sunday is the opportunity to go on a missions trip. Yeah. So I think that's one thing that I've learned, is that whereas, we need those overseas missions, but right here is a mission field as well. And you can do it every Sunday. You have the opportunity to get involved every Sunday.
Yeah. The mission field is wherever you are at that moment. That's an opportunity to be on mission. Yeah, cool. Well, thanks, guys, for sharing
Yep.
your journey and some of the stories and what you remember with us. And I'm just going to say thank you guys for watching, and I trust that you were encouraged and are reminded right now of God's faithfulness and his goodness to us. So thanks again, and until next session, God bless you.